Welcome, everybody, to our February edition of our data-driven community. I'm Celia Fryer. I'm your host today, and I'm very glad that you decided to join us and spend maybe your lunch break with us, right? So we are the Geomatrix team. We're committed to bringing things that either have been requested or things that are our current interests of our clients and what we're observing in the data fam as a larger community. And so today we're going to be focusing on advanced geospatial mapping in Tableau, as Tableau is very much a leader in the space of mapping early on, and then has just really taken it to the next level in the last few years. And so Lauren Cristaldi, who is our manager of the data analytics team at Geomatrix, is going to be presenting today from her experience and her work and everything from low-hanging fruit to some advanced techniques that you will be able to pick up from her. So just as a quick reminder, Zoom meeting etiquette, please, you guys are pros at this, I'm sure by now, but let's leave our mics on mute. But definitely we want this to be interactive. We'll keep the chat window open and be watching for communications there. In fact, let's just kick that party off. And if you would kindly just pull up chat and tell us where you're dialing in from today. Where are you at? And good to see folks dialing in. So we'll have a Q&A opportunity at the end, time allowing. And if for any reason you missed some or you need to come and go, there will be a recording that'll be sent out on the email to the email address that you registered with. So it's great. So we have folks from all over. That's awesome. Good. So, and on the email, there'll be a chance for you to make a suggestion. So very much would like to hear what would be top of mind for you. All right. And so the two of us do usually run this together. So we're very glad to spend the time. And I am a Tableau academic ambassador. I've been in data my career, and the last 10 years have very much been focused on helping people get to market. And Tableau has figured largely into that, along with SQL and some sort of spreadsheeting and Python along the way. So I'm also an adjunct professor at University of San Francisco, and I'll lead the team for training and engagement at Geomatrix. And Lauren, do you want to take a minute and introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, so I'm Lauren Cristaldi. I'm based in Charleston, South Carolina. I am the recent manager of data analytics, but I've been a lead, or I was formerly a lead with Geomatrix for about 3.5 years. I've been working with Tableau for over 8 years, and I love maps. So I'm really excited to show you guys today what I have built out.
Awesome. All right. And along with the fact that we are going to be sending you an email where you can make suggestions, we just want to say thank you to Jeff Johnson and the team there for making this recommendation, because it was their recommendation that kind of spurred the thought there. And we will have a Q&A that follows after Lauren. And Lauren, are you ready to share your screen?
Yeah.
All right. Very good. All right. That looks good.
Awesome. Thank you. So today I want to think outside the Mapbox. So as many of you may know, the default map in Tableau uses Mapbox, but it's limited to a certain default that the Tableau has baked into the application. So you're limited. If we go and look at this, you are able to make some like minor style edits to the background, and then you can add different layers like the terrain or coastline and different labels. But if you want to do like additional customizations, you're not really able to do that. It's more limited. So let's say I wanted the font to be Poppins for the labels. So like where it says United States, it can't do that unless we go actually into Mapbox and make a custom map. But there are some options, and I think it works for the most part pretty well. But if you're working with a brand design guide and you want to keep things consistent, it's more limited if you're just using the default. So we're going to go through how to add the Mapbox maps And then I also want to show like some of the ArcGIS and OGC maps. Those are a little bit more tricky, but as long as you have the right links to them, it's not too bad. And finally, towards the end, we'll get into some different kinds of mappings with spatial files. So like hex bins and maybe even like map layers, which I love map layers. I feel like I've presented on them a lot lately, but you can really make, non-maps out of map layers, which is cool. So let's get into these custom maps. And I did a tips and tricks video, but just as a refresher in case you missed it, here's the Mapbox website with the gallery. So you can use any of these that they already have built out, and then you can further customize them. And I think I like the community templates. So like this blueprint one, for example, if we just add to your studio, and you can create a free account with Mapbox. And it's nice because it automatically logs you in, so you don't have to remember your password. Over on the side here, we can change the different labels. And it might be overwhelming because there might be too many options, but always good to have options. But yeah, we can go in, change the font or the size, depending on those different layers that we've added in. You can have the different water, like bodies of water, labels, waterways, roads. So a lot of options. In order to bring this into Tableau, if we were to make any edits, you go up to Share, then Third Party, and you'd copy this style URL. So we've copied that. Now if we go back to Tableau, we can see I'm using that template here. We go up to Map, Background Maps, and then I have that blueprint loaded. But we can add a Mapbox map. And this is where you'd enter that URL. And it loaded that new one. It's the same, but if we were to change it to one of the other ones that I previously loaded, like the bubble map, which isn't very impressive when you're zoomed in. Maybe the navigation streets are better. So any questions around the Mapbox maps? Cool. So next, let's get into the more complicated maps. So the ArcGIS is great because especially if you have a license, so you can actually get in there and make more customizations. There are a few like free ones that I found, and honestly, they're hard to find. I found. I don't know about everyone else if you've tried to look for these before. But I used like the USGS website, and like this is a trail map. So I have a few of these. And I can add the links in the Tableau workbook so that when we publish it on our Tableau public site, you'll have access to those. Like if we took this trail one, we copied the URL. Let's add a new sheet. We'll go into our background maps from map, and we'll add a WMS map. I'll just paste that URL in. Now, if I bring in, let's see, maybe country and region. In this case, it's limited to the US. So let's filter for that. And this is a case where, yeah, some of these can be really slow to load. They're not super performant because it is calling that URL and trying to basically load it like you're loading something on the web. And your data really matters here as well. So if I had US trail data that I wanted to incorporate, like maybe I hiked the Appalachian Trail and I wanted to track like how many steps I took on the trail, that would be good data to plug in. And this is another thing that you may run into. And I'd run into this before. So yeah, you have to be careful where you're pulling it from because the WMS maps are using like PNGs, basically like custom PNGs, and then mapping them according to where the coordinates are. So it's trying to render a lot of images all at once. But if we go to one of our other ones, like this one isn't quite as complicated as those, like the US trails. So there's a lot of trails and like I would imagine more image files that it's trying to render. Whereas this is just a standard background. But I would say like for when I used to work for the state of South Carolina and I'd have to make custom maps for like I worked for the Department of Employment and Workforce and we had different like local workforce regions. So it was a collection of counties or cities. And so I'd have to make custom maps out of those regions. And since the default map didn't have those regions, it just had the different counties available, it was harder to like bring those together. At first, I just grouped all of the counties that were in the regions. Of course, that took a long time because there are a lot of counties in South Carolina. So, but then I realized like that I could use ArcGIS and create custom shapes, and I was able to bring that together. And I don't have that here, but I imagine if you're working with the government or for the government, you may have that be an option if you're wanting to make custom maps.
Question in from Austin in chat about once the WMS map is loaded from the URL, do you need to reload it again, or is it now tucked into a packaged workbook in some way? Can you talk a little bit about that, please?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So once you have it loaded, it will be packaged with the workbook as long as you're saving it as the .twbx. But if you create a new workbook, it's not going to remember any of these maps. So I would recommend making like a template or like a map focused workbook that already has these loaded, and then just bringing in, so like at the start of a new project or new dashboard, bring in your relevant data sources to something like this where it already has those maps loaded, just so you don't have to copy and paste the URLs again and again. If you go to manage maps, it'll show you all of the URLs and you can export or copy and paste somewhere else if you want them for reference for other workbooks.
And you were describing the load that the other one was creating. That load doesn't occur until you actually load it into a worksheet. And then Jeff has got a question for you. Will both the WMS and Mapbox works once published to Tableau Cloud server? Are there complexities? Yeah, I don't want you to read it, but some complexities with the local shape files. And it would be great if the cloud was leveraging published sources. Like maybe are you thinking, Jeff, are you thinking like do you want to come off mic and just elaborate a little bit about what you're thinking there? It sounds like you're trying to create a resource online that would be shareable, right?
Yeah, we have a private Tableau cloud instance, so I'm not talking about public, although that could be a factor too.
Within your organization, right?
Exactly. Yeah,
that's
yeah.
clear.
So shape files, right, as we know, they have to be zipped up and sent to the server. And anytime there's an update, you got to rezip them and send them. So if I could use a WMS layer and that was just always up to date, and I could leverage the underlying data, it would make the process of publishing those reports a lot easier.
Yes, so I haven't done that with the WMS, but I know you can do that with other spatial files. So I would imagine, I mean, it would be faster too, and you could keep it consistent. So if you had a lot of different people building and using that same map, you'd have that one point of governance basically, so that you could keep all of the maps consistent. So you wouldn't have some that were outdated or using the wrong URL or something like that. But this method with the URLs works when you publish to cloud or server, as long as your firewall, like if you have any firewalls for your server, are all clear for that URL.
And do we have access to the underlying attributes, this map layer?
So with this one, let me go back to this one. It really depends on the URL. Like this one, you do. There's only one option. But if this was combined with like water labels or other background layers, then it would come up on the side over here. Or is that what you meant?
Yeah, I think it's just going to depend on the data source, what they've published to make available to you. But,
Yeah, exactly.
Basically, I'm looking to filter on certain attributes or features. That's the end goal.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, for filtering, you have to make sure that the underlying, like the map and the map layers and the data that you're using to add points to the view all mesh well together. And then you can use the map layer. Usually it comes up over here to where you can hide, especially when you have different marks cards. So if I only wanted to see like certain features, depending on the data I'm presenting, it would allow you to remove certain layers.
Yeah, thank you for the question, and thank you for Lauren. There's a thanks for you also in the channel, my friend.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I know it's complicated, but it really does depend on your data, like with anything, and where you're getting the web map service from. So outside of WMS and Mapbox, we also have, and I'll show this example where I'm using a spatial file. So we have this geometry. I got this from Tableau Public a long time ago. And there are a few different ways to make like hexbin maps. but I just found using this file to be the easiest. If you want to see an example of how I incorporate it with other data. So I was trying to do IronViz last year, but I ran out of time. But I built out this data source where I'm using food waste statistics. And I wanted to make a map of the US. The traditional map, you have some states that are really small, especially in the Northeast, and it doesn't like lay it all out, especially when you're looking at more which state has the most food waste or the least. So to make it easier to read, I like to use the hex bin for the US. I put the spatial extract here, and then I just have the flow with those relationships connecting to the relevant data that I want to bring in. These are all geofields. This polygon is basically drawing that hexagon, and then the line just provides an outline of the hexagon. And when we bring it all together, we end up with something like this.
Yeah, that's
Now to
beautiful,
build.
Lauren. That's beautiful.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, really, the hex bins they're not like perfect for every use case, but I think when you really just want a flattened view of all of these different states or regions, it's nice to see everything, and your labels don't get cut off. Like usually it would be hard to see New Jersey or Vermont or New Hampshire.
That's a really good point. And Austin's asking if hexagon is the default shape for polygon.
So good question. No, it's not the default. It depends on how you create that spatial file. I haven't made my own spatial file, but this one that I had found, it does the way that it lays out the points, it basically draws a hexagon for that polygon. And to demonstrate, this is so much easier than having to do the different like special calculated fields where you're using like hex bin Y or hex bin X. Because we just bring in the like geometry column, and now we have all of these hex bins. And if I added state to detail, separates those a bit, I can go to the map options. I don't need any of those. We can also take away those background layers, or we can go up to map, background maps, and select none. Oh, no, sorry. I was thinking of something else. We can just uncheck everything in the background since we don't need that. So yeah, only a few steps and then you have everything. And I usually like to add a border too to separate those a bit. So yeah, it's really nice when you can just add it to the data source and then it does all the heavy lifting for you.
Did you use this file or another one to get them on the one you showed with the waste, the food waste?
Oh, so I
Yeah,
used
so
this
it's similar.
file.
How did you control the amount of space that's between them? I know that's probably a fine point, but I like the amount of space you've given it here. A lot of breathing room, a little bit of breathing room.
Yeah, I think, oh, what did I do? I think I used the outline. Let's see if we
Did you
can repeat.
change the size of it by any chance? No?
Now I'm wondering, okay, I have it set to map. I have a feeling it has to do with the outline.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh, yep.
got it. Mm-hmm. It's good. Yeah, that creates some nice, like almost like a honeycomb.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always funny when, because I made that, I don't know, in October. So trying to remember. It's a good refresher though.
Yeah, this is really cool. You're, there's been some applause and some shout outs in chat, by the way, if you're not
Oh,
seeing
thank
it.
you. Yeah, I need to publish this. I can't even tell you the number of dashboards that it'll be like a random Sunday. And my husband makes fun of me because I'll just start thinking about something, I'll find some data, try to like start building out a dashboard for fun, and then I don't actually finish it or do anything with it. But it's always nice when like your hobby and things you enjoy align with
Yeah.
what you do for work. Not
Right,
everyone
true.
is that lucky, but
Austin's asking where you found the spatial file. Are you thinking about for this particular one, Austin, or you want to come off mute and tell us what you're thinking there?
Yeah, I really like this particular one with the hexagons, but if there's like a repositories that where you can find a variety of spatial files and that's where you found it, that would be good to know.
yeah, and I'll add that when I publish, but let me go to, I think I can find it pretty quickly. I know that on my Tableau public page, I had it somewhere. Or maybe not. Oh, it might be on the Geomatrix one. Oops. Oh, there we go. So I had done a similar presentation in the past, and this is on Tableau Public, but I'll make it available in this new one as well, because it is nice to have a single source, because it can be a lot to Google and try to find the right website for different ones. Oh, and it looks like the one I used before is no longer available. But yeah, George from Tableau Public, he had made that spatial file available originally. But I think I still have the files where you can download them. Yeah, they're still available. So you can download that spatial file. I already have it set up like in a data source to make it a little bit easier. but you can go in and edit that. And we recently moved to Google Drive, so I'll research the best way to make those available in our new environment.
So it sounds like you just found it exploring Tableau Public.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool.
I think that's like
Good.
most of the things I find are just scrolling through Tableau Public like it's Reddit or something.
All right, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, shout out to the Tableau community because it's like Power BI and Looker, you don't have as much community engagement, I feel like, where you can go in and download and then reverse engineer or repurpose someone else's solutions. It's very collaborative. Then another way that I use maps, like this, and I actually helped someone on our team make a version of this recently. So this is a sunburst using map layers. So who thought you could use maps to build a donut on top of another donut? And for this, it's pretty simple. So if I go into my donut, and you don't have to call it donut, you can call it anything. And the one doesn't matter. It could be 0, 0. As long as they're the same, it's going to find that middle point and then create or plot it based on that point that you're creating. So if I go over here, and we can even use world indicators. So we'll make a calculated field. I'll do make point 0, 0. I'll bring that in. And then I just bring it in again, and it layers on top of itself. So we'll add that marks layer. Now I can change these both to be pies. And you can add as many layers as you want. Like I've had some, especially when I do custom tables, I've had 20 marks cards, which is crazy. That's why I also appreciate that you can rename them to keep track. And I can actually remove latitude and longitude. As long as you're just layering the same point on top of each other, you can remove those and then it'll auto size. Do an entire view. Let's see what would be a fun one to use. Let's do internet usage on the angle. One thing to point out is depending on the order of your marks cards, so like the topmost layer is going to be on the top, or the topmost card is going to be the topmost layer. And then the bottom will be on the bottom. So if I change the colors here for this bottom one, let's do it by the region. And you're not able to see anything because they're the same size and this one is on the bottom. So if I change the size to be a little bit bigger, and now we have a donut.
And Lauren, I think that I recently was told that you have to have 2 points on before you can remove the longitude latitude without there being some issues with that, right?
Yes. And that's really good to note because, oh, actually, sometimes it's fine. Oh, no, It's not fun. So yeah, it freaks out if you remove that and then try to add another layer on there. So you have to make sure that all of your layers are added before you take those latitude and longitude points away.
But you could probably set your background map to none to keep it from distracting from your build process a
Yeah,
little
you could
earlier. Yeah.
Actually, I wonder if it will still throw that error. Oh no, so actually, so yeah, that's a good point. If you do background maps and then none, and then try to add in another layer, it won't break
Yes.
it, which is nice. So that way, if you wanted to add more to it after you've already built it out, you can still have that flexibility without having to start over again.
And this method of building donuts, y'all, is way more conducive to auto fitting into evenly distributed containers and things like that. That's one of the biggest wins on this as opposed to the way we used to build donuts in Tableau.
Oh yeah, that's a good point too, and when you're building, let's say you have 10 donuts, but you're trying to get that sizing, like the middle to the outer ring ratio correct, like it can be really tedious and a lot of trial and error. Whereas this one will just resize by itself.
So helpful.
Yeah, that's why I'm like so passionate about map layers now.
And aren't they, I think I've learned from you and like a host of other voices about them being more performant than us taking 10 worksheets and overlaying them in the ultimate production of it all, right?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah, I like to use them. I've been using them a lot for like custom KPIs as well. So if you have, let's say you want to show like an area chart for a time series under a big like indicator of a total, but traditionally that would take anywhere from 2 to 3 sheets, depending. But now you can do it all in one sheet. So Tableau is only having to load one sheet instead of 3. And the more you can consolidate things to be on one sheet or like fewer sheets, the more performant your dashboards will be.
David, do you want to go on and ask about the labeling question, please, sir?
Yeah, sure. Hi, Lauren. With traditional donuts or pie charts, like you were talking about a little bit ago regarding the sizing, labeling is just very rigid and unflexible in terms of how to control where the labels fall and what happens when things get on top of each other or losing labels. Have you done much labeling using donuts or pies with this construction method? And is it more flexible in terms of getting it to look the way you want and still being dynamic?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So it does, it's a little bit more flexible, but it's still not like perfect. Because you can, like let's add a label. So this will adjust, but things are overlapping depending on how much room it has. And then of course you can move a label, and you can do that on the traditional donut or pie. But as soon as you filter, it will revert back to the automated labeling positioning. So that's
Right.
not a great solution.
How about like just horizontal leader lines or something like that between the labels? I've tried to create that using the old methodologies with a whole bunch of calculations to create every label is vertically stacked and horizontally noted with a leader line to its appropriate pie section. But something like that is has been a labeling challenge with donuts and pies for a long time.
You tried doing the match the mark color to help it be connected without having to have a leader line?
Yeah,
You
that's
know
a
what I mean?
good
That's what I
that's a good
usually
feed.
recommend.
Yeah, the map colors work well until there's overlap, like you see Africa is disappearing within its own color and stuff like that.
Oh,
Do
true.
you have your overlap allowed checked on yours, Lauren? I'm surprised it's doing that.
So I think
It's
it's
good.
it's making sure that it's not overlapping like the next mark.
Oh, the next one in. Got it.
Yeah, it actually looks to see if the labels themselves overlap. If the labels themselves wouldn't overlap, then it doesn't hide them.
Right. Yeah, with this, if we adjust the size a little bit, it'll give it more room, but it's still not perfect. I think a lot of times what I'll do, or what I've started doing more recently, if I have a donut like this, I'll actually create a like smart legend. So if we, and you can use map layers for this as well. So let me go into the point. I'll bring that in like before. I'm gonna make it a circle, bring in another point. This will be our label. We can also just only use this one, but we do none. Now we have that. I'll put region on the rows. And the label and the color. Really, we don't need that one. We can hide that header. And I'll tell this to be off to the side. And I can do the internet usage underneath. So now if I go back to the dashboard, and this can be a better like labeling solution, especially if you have more than, I would say, 3 categories or slices within that donut or pie. And you could even add like more relevant information to that label because you have a lot more space and consistency to do that and control in general. So I could add a percentage as well as the amount of internet usage. Plus you get a legend that is a circle instead of the square, so. And I've found that this is a lot easier to read. That way, when you're up here, if we remove those labels, you can focus on the different slices and then look over for exact values or hover over them. I do wish we had like more customization though, in terms of like those leader lines. I know I've done that with several calculations for the gauges, like here. And this gauge chart is using map layers as well. It's like with the donut, except for you have to do some data densification so it can draw lines because it needs to fill in the points between the 0 and the 23,000. But like all of these are dynamic, so it knows how to plot. So if any of these values changed within that first ring, then those lines would change according to where this starts or ends. That is more involved though with setting it up. But once you set it up, it's pretty easy. I haven't tried it with a pie or a donut, but now I want to, so be on the lookout. Any other questions? I know we only have about 10 minutes left.
Sorry, Lauren, you could have done that with map layers, right? You could have done that smart legend inside the center circle, couldn't you have, and kept it all in one sheet?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, as long as you have enough room, you can add that legend into the center. You would, oh, sorry, go
That would have been beautiful.
ahead. I will say you couldn't have, you'd have to make individual calcs though for the different regions, because within this part, it wouldn't, we'd have to see when we add region, it does this. So to get them to be like individual rows, we would have to add in calculations for that.
Are you seeing a trend that is moving away from one donut into more separate donuts that show the highlight of just the proportion that is represented by the item that's on that row?
Oh yeah, I've done that with a few things. And honestly, I feel like that can be a lot easier to read and you get more insights faster from doing that. I think donuts and pies in general get a really hard time because, people have 20 different categories and then it's, I can't even read this. So
Right,
there's
right.
too much going on. But yeah, if we had like a total, maybe I can make that. So we have the sum of the internet usage. Actually, let me just do a fixed calc. And then we would need that difference from the total. Now, if I switch that out with the measure values, I'll edit the filter, none. And we want the internet usage and that difference. And if we filter on one region, and then we make the measure names that color, that difference would be the gray. We can leave that as orange. Then we can resort it.
Like that. So that would be in line with a label that was for that one item and maybe some other details. It's really good.
And
That's
we
way
could even,
easier to get data from. Yeah. Now there you go. That's great.
yeah, and then that way you just have it all in one sheet. And we're seeing how those differences stack up against each other
Mhm.
with the total.
That's really good. Yeah. Lots of applause, by the way. I hope you're seeing it.
Yeah, thank you. I see a couple of them.
And this is great. With a fresh perspective on that old familiar friend, right? Team, any other questions for Lauren? And let me, in case you missed it, I'm going to put it into chat. She did record a walkthrough on how to configure that map, the Mapbox, custom Mapbox that she's demonstrated right at the beginning, the one with the blueprint. That's an example that she's shared with made ready to go for everybody. So if you want to give that a shot this afternoon, you're already equipped to do so. So, and any questions or comments, we'd love to hear from you guys. All right, Lauren, thank you so much for preparing all this and having it ready for us to share and show today. Really appreciate you. And see, we'll be sending you, the team will be sending a follow-up. Just please, and like I said, Jeff was the one that suggested this. So we'd be happy to do what you guys are interested in, to what will support what you're doing with your work. And that quick tip video that I'm mentioning here is in chat and will be sent out again on the email that's a follow-up. And if you wish to get in touch with us, we have these emails here for our president and our director of client success, Stuart Tinsley. And otherwise, just thanks so much for joining us, and love to be in touch with you and see what is up next month, Lauren. I know we've got it planned out.
Oh, next month, I think we're going to get into using custom image URLs, maybe some survey data.
Oh, that's
Fun
right.
stuff.
Awesome. Sounds good. Okay. Thank you guys for coming, and we will hope to see you again. If not before then, we'll see you next month, hopefully. All right. Thank you, Lauren.
Yeah, thank you, Celia. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thanks, everybody.